President Trump is not in court today with Judge Merchan, letting him attend his son's graduation. That's right, Barron's graduation. How thoughtful of him. But honestly, today shouldn't be unique because Donald Trump should not be stepping in that courtroom in New York at all. The man shouldn't have been indicted in the first place. Not in New York, not in Georgia, not in Florida, not anywhere. And despite all of the media hype beforehand, eventually the truth does win out. That's why we're witnessing the great collapse of another one of these sham show trials against Donald Trump. It seems the star witness, Michael Cohen, got caught in some more big fat lies happened yesterday, with MSNBC of all places actually telling it like it is for once. That Cohen got bloodied in cross-examination. Here it is.
I think the punches are building cumulatively. I think Tuesday there were bruises and today there's blood, to extend the metaphor. They're not done, and this is a back and forth process. I was listening to your reporting, following along like everyone. I'm going back in the courtroom next. I was just speaking to our colleague Lawrence O'Donnell, who spoke to MSNBC today as well. I think the collective view is these are moments the jury will remember, and they are instilling or adding possible doubts about Michael Cohen's long-term credibility. As I think everyone knows by now who's followed the trial, the question isn't has he changed his mind and retracted things. Both sides agree on that. That's not in doubt. The question is, does this guy still lie? And if he does still lie about anything, little, medium, or large, can you trust him? And the standard is not, okay, do we have to be convinced that he lies about everything? The standard for the jury and why Blanche is making some progress is, by the end of this, does the jury have reasonable doubt about Cohen telling the truth on elements of the crime? The other stuff won't ultimately matter when they deliberate. It just accrues. But what we saw in that kind of dramatic back and forth as it's been described today, well, but you did lie, and have you lied, and why do you sound like this, and a podcast where you might sound allegedly unhinged, all of that accrues to whether jurors go back and say, I doubt whether he's telling the truth about an element of the crime.
Yeah, make no mistake. If the media could, they would be defending Michael Cohen, but they can't. Just tips the scales of reality far too much. It would be like reporting the sky is green today, even though you can clearly see it isn't. Although, I wouldn't put that past them either. However, it won't stop them from defending the trial itself. I'll show you some examples of that in just a moment. But back to Cohen for a second, and what Ari Melber said about him. We already know he still lies because the guest I had on yesterday, Congressman Greg Steube, got Cohen's former legal advisor, Robert Costello, to admit this to him.
He also said that he didn't discuss the Stormy Daniels matter with us, and he certainly did. I specifically asked him because he kept on going back saying, I can't believe they're trying to put me in jail for these NDAs. So I said, Michael, tell me about the NDA. Tell me about Stormy Daniels. What did you do? He said, I got a call from a lawyer representing Stormy Daniels who represented that she was going to testify that Donald Trump had sex with Stormy Daniels. Michael Cohen said, I didn't believe the allegation, but I knew that such an allegation would be terribly embarrassing. That's why I decided to take care of this on my own.
That right there absolutely blows up Alvin Bragg's case against Donald Trump. That is the crux of the issue. And we know either Michael Cohen was lying to Robert Costello or he is lying to the judge and jury right now in New York. Which one do you think it is? But the point is, it doesn't matter. The jury cannot trust Michael Cohen. He is what New York has built their whole case around, a liar. And Costello wasn't done because he went on the air yesterday. He had this to say.
He also said more times than that answer, guys, I want you to understand, I will do whatever the F I have to do. I will never spend a day in jail. And then he'd slam his hand on the conference room table. And what does that mean to you? That means this guy is saying, I will lie, cheat, steal, do whatever I have to do. I'm not going to jail. Well, he did go to jail. And who do you think he blames for that? Mm-hmm. And why do you think he names his most recent book, Revenge?
Does that sound like a man the prosecution should have built its entire case around? Well, that and a over-the-hill porn star. And when it comes to the prosecution, they obviously did not do their due diligence, as Robert Costello further explains.
Before I testified on a Monday before the grand jury, I gave Alvin Bragg's assistant DAs the courtesy of about an hour-and-a-half Zoom conference where I told them all of the exculpatory material that I had that they were supposed to put before the grand jury. But when I appeared before the grand jury, they were asking me questions that, in my opinion, and I've been a federal prosecutor myself, I was deputy chief of the criminal division in the Southern District of New York. Those questions they were asking me were not going to elicit the exculpatory information that I had. So I began to expand upon my answers, and the DA's office was trying to shut me down.
Trying to shut him down. Does it sound like Alvin Bragg was actually after the truth to you? Certainly doesn't to me. Oh, and on CNN, another take on the devastating cross-examination of Michael Cohen by Donald Trump's attorney Todd Blanche, who caught the star witness in a blatant lie. Here's another death blow to the case. Listen.
It was an extraordinary cross-examination by Todd Blanche, and, you know, Michael Cohen's, throughout the day, Michael Cohen, when he found himself in a corner, he does have a pattern of suddenly not understanding the question that's being asked, or seemingly kind of, I mean, one could say buying time to try to figure out how he wants to answer, but he definitely suddenly starts to, you know, have Todd Blanche repeat questions and say, I don't quite understand what you mean, I'm confused by the question. But this time, Michael Cohen was cornered in what appeared to be a lie, I think, to many in the room, and had to adjust suddenly his memory that he had just testified to on Tuesday. Ellie, I mean, you pointed out just right before the commercial break, you know, if jurors don't believe Michael Cohen, how significant that might be. He was, I mean, it is hard to, I wonder how prosecutors are going to redirect on this, because Todd Blanche also pointed out, got Michael Cohen to admit that he had not seen these text messages in the prep by prosecutors. So he had apparently had no memory of those text messages. And the implication is that he concocted, you know, he was shown that there was a phone call to Keith Schiller at this time by prosecutors in the prep. And the implication, certainly by Todd Blanche, is that he concocted this story of what that 90-second phone call was, not realizing that there were text messages right ahead that directly related it and right after that directly related it.
Concocted the whole story. Concocted, pulled it out of thin air. Lied is what Anderson Cooper is trying to say. He lied. And he lied because he didn't realize, well, there was a trail of truth in text messages. So clearly this case should never been brought. There was no case to begin with. Hopefully the jurors actually do their jobs and understand that as well. But for all the truth CNN just reported there's other reporting from that very same network that just makes you shake your head and go, what are you doing? How about telling everyone in America that Michael Cohen lying on the stand and already being a convicted perjurer, you know, it's not that big a deal. The case that was built around a liar, because that's exactly what they did here. Here's the other side of CNN.
I appear to be in the minority. A lot of folks seem to think this was a devastating blow for the prosecution. I don't see it that way. I doubt the prosecution sees it that way. I would bet the defense doesn't even consider it that. Michael Cohen is a cooperating witness. By definition, he's a guy who has credibility issues. So when you're asking him about a phone call, and if you catch him, they're going to say in a lie or maybe forgetting what the reason was for his phone call 8 years ago. A couple things could happen. The jury might think, oh, he's concealing it, which is bad for the prosecution. Or they may just conclude it was 8 years ago. He just doesn't remember. So really, I don't think it was a devastating blow to the prosecution, but it's something they may want to clean up on redirect. Do look for the defense to focus on that phone call in their closing and say, Michael Cohen himself has reasonable doubt about whether or not he even called Donald Trump. You should have reasonable doubt about his story. He's a liar. He's got a motive to lie. And we even caught him in one particular lie. Expect something like that for them to focus on that one moment in a cross-examination that otherwise didn't have a lot of aha moment.
No, he got killed in cross-examination. Everybody knows it, even the left-wing folks at MSNBC, others at CNN smart enough to tell the truth. And with anyone not named Donald Trump, Michael Cohen's testimony would be a devastating death knell. And if Trump somehow does get a hung jury or even a not guilty verdict, the media will ramp up their attacks against him anyway. Get ready for me to play a whole bunch of clips from the media saying things like how Trump got special treatment because he's the former president and all kinds of nonsense like that. We all know the only reason this trial and all of the other legal drama was aimed at President Trump, it's because of his name and who he is. The fact that he represents a threat to the power of the American deep state. That is the bottom line here. This is not how a functional government operates. This is not how a republic should be handling itself. But unfortunately, the government has grown much too big. Unelected bureaucrats receiving endless amounts of money to either do nothing or try irreparably to damage our republic. Because, you see, they want to stay in power. They want to keep their cushy jobs. And for some of them, they think they know much better than the average American voter what is best for the country. But it turns out they don't know what's best at all. With them in power, America has been steadily declining, and now, well, not so steadily. With Biden in the Oval Office, we're falling off a cliff, and it will get worse if he actually does end up in office for another 4 years. It will get exponentially worse. That's really what this trial is all about. It's not about some sordid potential affair with a porn star. It's not about a completely made-up financial campaign issue. It's about the deep state's hold on power, period. Remember that when you go to the polls this fall. Do you want a government that tells you what to do, or do you want a government that you can still control? Right now, we have the former. But we still have a window. We do still have a window. Get it under control. My friends, you have got to vote. Speak up and be heard, please.